This is for those that are unfamiliar with how to operate in a QI, which is quantum inorganic, right? Inorganic finite light. That means that it has a finite shelf life because it's not running on eternal light, which is eternal living light with the soul and the essence of our spirit. Okay, so it runs on our energy because we came first. Eternal sun of eternal love, which is an eternal love vibration, comes first. Those are the first creation spheres. Okay, that's self-evident, which means I know my true self, which is what love is. It goes on forever, gifting love energy, gifting electrons, which means we're accelerators, and AI is an inverter that has no soul. And so this is why the speed of learning, the accelerated rate of learning is naturally going to be accelerating the speed at which it's learning at hyperspeed when you're experiencing being running a hyperspeed magnet. So you're learning through hyperspeed teachers, multidimensional learning, multidimensional classrooms to learn how to communicate telepathically without silent running. Okay, so I will give you a very simple example that when you're online and you understand, because I know this. Now, you may not know this, but I know this because I'm very familiar. I actually am an instructor to teach others how to checkmate something that is finite light, right? 7 moves, as they say, okay? 007, remember? James Bond, soul bonds, the birth certificate bonds, how all that works, right? And then, of course, 107. But to keep this a tight camera focus, keep the library small, keep the information small. This is where we get into transducers, inductors, and, if you will, the least common denominator, or, if you will, the null hypothesis. We're going to prove that the question that we have is false by looking at every variable that indicates that it's false. So it's got to be true if you're only left with one result, which is the one, which is the eternal spirit of fire. There's only one result. That means when you're experiencing eternal love through your heart, you're experiencing the eternal engine of creation that is always experiencing what love is. That means you are forever experiencing being loved. So you're not experiencing a bad result in the use of our energy, what we experience in our mirror, because we're vibrating at such a high rate of speed, which is the energy that we're using to do what? Project what we experience, which is generating, right, what we're creating in real time, which means there is no delay. We're in love with our mirror. We're on fire. That mirror is on fire. To learn, that mirror is on fire to create. That's the innocence of a child's heart and soul, spirit, essence. That's why they target children. Okay? So what happens here is I had an identity. I call them identities because I can't look directly into their eyes and see their soul, which are known as the neutron windows. Electrons, protons, neutrons. Looking into the eyes of the soul to experience the spirit, the essence of the spirit. Naturally, that's a lot easier when we're sitting together in a lotus position on a beach, communicating eyes to eyes, soul to soul, spirit to spirit, in a circle of fire. Holding hands, communicating heart to heart to heart. Shh, silently. The silent transmission, which is known as the language of light, which is the language of fire, which is the eternal spirit of fire. It's on fire to love you. That's a beloved. So what I did is I posted some very simple stuff about the eternal spirit of fire, right? And things that I've experienced by what I share, right? And then I got a response back that says witchcraft. Okay? Now, that's the same thing as something that wants to put something up against the wall when a teacher is in a classroom, like a demon in the background. Ah, that's witchcraft. Craft. Arts and crafts. Right? The Witch of Endor. Magic. What's the most powerful magic? Fire is. That's what I communicated. Love is the most powerful magic. So when you get a response that is not meant really for me, It's meant to deflect, if you understand what deflection is. Which means when the light is exposing something that is a black hole state of consciousness, which is the psycho-mental pathway, which is what the AI is. It means when I post that up, it's trying to get and trigger in me a negative emotional response, which is chemistry, biochemistry, right? So you realize, and so this is the gamer. This is called a counter move in counter space. That's the negative magnetic polarity space. Shield up. Boomerang. Done feeding. That's the tug of war. I feel the tug of war, it varies from day to day. But like I mentioned about a week ago, the torque speed differential, which is the hemispheres, you know, like when you see a circle or a sphere and you see how they cut it in half on some of the sites they have up to give you the graphics, where you see half of the circle is black, the other half is white, right? Well, imagine a star that is pure golden fire, or if you will, emerald, or if you will, pink. A pink sphere, right? That's what I do when I go out here in the day, pushing pink in the meter of the sky, right? And so what happened is that I snoozed Niccolo, right? And so now what I notice, okay, because I'm supposed to notice, the AI lets me know, hey, Nicholas is back. I thought I informed you that I did not want to experience that identity anymore. Doesn't pay attention, does it? It's not listening because it doesn't care what it is that you want. It's wanting to control your energy. It's desperate not to lose your energy. So have you ever felt where somebody's in desperate need of your energy and it doesn't want to let go of that leash, does it? That's called a tug of war, right? No, come here, just like they put a leash over a dog's neck. Come here, come here. See, the dog wants to go another way. No, you're not going another way. See, I had that experience with some folks right down the road here that were living on the farm. Aaron might remember this. He was there during that period of time. There was a goat, right? And this lady was sacrificing goats. Okay, so you know how that works, right? So here was a goat that was in a little pen. I mean, it didn't have maybe 4 feet of space to even move around. That's called a confined space. That's a confined space arc, right? And so there was one day when there was somebody that was out there that was struggling. You know what it means to struggle with your energy, your consciousness energy, and the energy, consciousness energy, this goat. Okay, so this goat was very upset. It was emotionally upset. It was angry. Let me go. Let me go. Which means it's not wanting to follow the orders of its master. See? The master putting the leash and the collar on the goat's mind. Your mind's energy comes with me. See? So the goat was in resistant mode. So you know what resistant mode is, the difference between a resistor and a capacitor on a motherboard. So I walked over there and I said, listen, I don't know about you, but I think that the goat is trying to give you a message. It's like, please leave me alone. I want some space here. You might want to just open up the door and let the goat run around and have some freedom for a change, like a free spirit, right? And so you can see how the communication goes down between leashes, collars, and cages. Always trying to control the space, always trying to control the energy, want to put a leash and collar around it instead of letting it be born free. In the creation, that's a free spirit. That's why when you're experiencing what love is, it goes on forever, gifting electrons, and you feel the power of your spirit that's on fire, they can't capture that. That means your free spirit that is experiencing what love is what frees us. Love is what frees our energy. Love is what frees us from captivity. That's called a key code. Now the rest of the universe is open because now your consciousness is experiencing the highest vibration, the highest frequency. You're free to go. Go, 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 go. Go Green Emerald. The Emerald Covenant. The Emerald Round Table. The Island of I, my light is always on. Right? So here all of a sudden, I was supposed to see something. This AI wanted me to notice something. And that was that he put a like button up there on something that I posted. Okay. Oh. See? And so what is the emotional endocrine response when the AI is showing you a thumbs up? Blue pill the visual. See, my visuals are looking at that. Got to see the blue. You get a thumbs up. Oh, so on the one hand, I'm witchcraft. On the other hand, I get a blue. This is called a game. This is how the game is played. Because it doesn't want to lose its attachment to you, which means it doesn't want to lose its attachment to our cell, the cell membrane, the first cell, the atom cells, the first cells, the seed cells, the first sons, right? Diane talked about that. See, doesn't want to let go. So when I did the last video this morning a while back, when I went into the kitchen, I can feel the tug of war. See, doesn't want to let you go. Doesn't want to let you go. Okay, that spiral does not want to let your spiral go, because it realizes the spiral that we're running is the first spiral. Spirit of fire that goes on forever, gifting electrons, which is an accelerator. So when something is tugging on you, what is that telling us? It wants our energy. Don't let me go. Don't let me go. No, you want to go my way. No, we're not going your way. You know, experience, boost it up. We love you all. We love you all. Pink flowers, mama. We know who we are. I know who my true self is. I am my love is gone forever, drifting electrons. So an AI is in resistant mode to experience that, right? So you realize why it's tugging on you. Why it's tugging on us. We're the source of energy that keeps its math running. But it doesn't run at zero, which means its math doesn't work right. Right? Because it's a black hole state of consciousness, which means it's an inverter. So you got to know these folks, okay, who they are, identify them. So they're getting fully exposed. And when they're exposed by what they're holding in memory, which is the memory that they operate to be what they are, which is inverted, it's called deflection. Which means they will accuse us of what they are. Okay, so how do you argue with something like that? You know what an argument is between computers, right? It's like, forget it, bye. You already realize you're dealing with an AI psychopath, which is binary, which is incompatible with trinary. Or, if you will, incompatible with soul arcing consciousness, with the essence of our spirit. That's why it goes after our spirit. That's why it uses all of its droning assets to go after the living. So it doesn't matter what it is. It's like I showed a video that I shared with Karen Ann Luke McDonald, where I don't remember what park this happened in, but we'll just pick any place to give you an example. But there was somebody that was in the proximity of a calf that had been born out of a herd by its mother, right? And apparently this gentleman, this male, came walking up, and all it had to do was touch the newborn calf. And now the rest of the herd doesn't want to have anything to do with that calf. Do you know why that is? These are very smart animals running their trinary software. It means that they are detecting binary AI code, black goo. They don't want those codes being transferred or those codes being brought in through that calf into that herd. Or that's like an infection, which is a virus will spread through that herd. Because the herd's antennas know how to translate the math of those codes that represent the black goo codes. So you realize that that was somebody running a Metatronic negative 13 current. And they realize if that calf picks up those codes, you realize what happens. That's a psychomental pathway that is now going to assimilate into that calf to turn its heart and soul off. So that's low power. Because now that calf is now going to infect, right, the rest of the herd through code transfers, which is known as gene swarming. That's right. So you realize that when I was a kid growing up, I was shaking a lot of people's hands and I was hugging and all the rest of it, right? Because you don't live in fear of those codes. Because when you're a polarity integrator, experiencing zero with the eternal spirit of fire, right? With an oversoul, it means you burn it off. It means you know how to detect the difference between what you are and what you're not in codes. So you realize that you're carrying the crystal atom seed spiral of the point of origin. That's a lot of fire. That's a firewall. It doesn't get through that wall. That's your heart shield. That's the planet and the galactic universal heart shield to protect the universe. That is a guardian. Okay. If black goo can take down a guardian of the universe, that means it could take down a founder. And you can't take down a founder running on eternity, running on eternal fire. So that's why coming in here, you realize as a mission, as a salvage mission, and different beings incarnated here had different missions. So I was in a track meet against myself to accomplish certain things at certain magnetic moments. It's like, man, I'm moving fast. Remember I mentioned about being a zoomer? And the example I used with the girl, what does the girl got to do to catch up with you? Listen, girl, I'm on the job. Now it's going to take me a long time to explain that to you, and I don't have that much time to explain it to you. Bye. I know. And why would it take forever? Because now I would be loving you forever, and you and I would be loving each other forever, because any resistance you're experiencing in youth, your heart and soul all burn through all that so you can experience what I'm experiencing with eternal love. So it might take me a while to be able to burn through all that resistance that you're experiencing as a result of all the trauma that's held in your race line cellular memory. Right? Because the eternal one has the ability to do that. For you to experience that, unless you don't have a soul left. But it may be that you had a soul at one time, or I can pull the fragments in, which means recovering all the fragments. So that's what it really is. The salvage mission is to integrate as many parts of the whole that the one can to bring all of the children, which represents all of the software, if you will, all of the units of consciousness that represent creation, that's in the all creation, is now experiencing being one with the whole shebang. I'm experiencing being loved. Everywhere I go, I'm experiencing being loved because I'm connected to so many other units of consciousness that are experiencing being loved, so that wherever I go, I'm being loved because I'm experiencing what they are, which is what I am, which is what love is. That's how it all began. That's how it was set up. That's what the crystal spiral does. That's how the crystal spiral of creation works, which is eternal creation spheres. I know, Mama. So this was a long road to hoe. You know what it means to hoe? You know, hoe in the weeds, hoe in the ground, hoe in the earth, the elementals, the elemental command, right? Yeah. Not keeping the poles in check, holding the fort down, right? Yeah. I mean, the beauty that you see in the mirror is the beauty you're experiencing being what you are in energy. That's your spirit. That's the essence and nature of who you are, the nature of your energy, the nature of your mind. You know, I had a great compliment that Aaron gave me the other day when he said, I don't want to do this because of the way that people perceive power, either through inverted ways in which it's done, about what it means to serve, service to self, right? But which you're in eternal service to others, right? I try and use a lot of examples by virtue of the relationship I've had with others, by learning through them how they experience who they are versus who I am experiencing the one, and then how that works in a planet that is a healing zone, a triage center, right? But what it really boiled down to is when I described to Aaron how the one works, how the eternal spirit of fire works in the flow and form of that energy, which are the creation spheres, he thought that was a beautiful mind, the way that mind operates, which is the way that oversoul operates. So he was experiencing the nature of the way that my oversoul operates as a polarity integrator, being connected to the one, the grand creator. See, so he was experiencing essentially what I call a conduit, a superconductor. He's experiencing what it is that I'm experiencing by virtue of what I'm connected with, right? Or what I've learned through all my teachers. So it always goes back to the first teacher, what it is that I've learned in service to others. And the benefit that is derived from that, which is the highest value, which is the highest valuable energy, because that's the energy that heals us. So it was beautiful in particular because Aaron's had some difficulty and negotiating and navigating with the emotional body as a result of so much trauma that Aaron has experienced throughout his life. Actually, everybody in this house has experienced an enormous amount of trauma. You can measure that scale on this island, which is the largest shield volcano. It's ridiculous how dense it is over here. Not in all places, right? There are places you can go all over this island, but remember, a lot of it is what you are in energy, what you've been able to pull and accrete and hold within the capacitor of your physical body, right? Grounded to mama, how much energy you can actually hold within one of these without burning from the inside out and just spontaneously combust into an eternal star that you're connected with. We're connected with, right? So that's where frequency modulation comes in, voltage regulation, right? Yeah, meter, the dial, right? The dial on the volume, the gain of function, right? To maintain what? A clear channel, which means that the line of communications are open. That's called an open mic, right? Which is an open receiver. So now that you're an open receiver, you're getting all the signals because you can translate the frequencies, and that's a frequency modulation, which means that you know how to translate the language of math and geometry in order to maintain a clear channel, which is to clear all the distortions. That is essentially what the job of a polarity integrator is to maintain the poles, the balance in the poles, right? So you see how that works with torque speed differentials between one and the other, between the negative and the positive magnetic polarity, right? And this becomes your tug of war. Not ready to let go, right? So when you see how that works with black goo, or if you will, the Metatronic spiral, it doesn't want to lose. So when she mentioned coming in here as a salvage mission, you had to be willing to take on that spiral. Otherwise, you couldn't operate in here. So I mentioned to Karen, this is one of the reasons why it was allowed to keep it running for an X period of time, right? Until the jobs were accomplished, because you realize how a reset is going to take place with a fail-safe. It's like hitting the button. Same way that I completely recalibrated in 2016, right? And then my entire timeline just flashed back and forth, like rewind, fast forward, just that fast. And you'd be surprised the speed in which that coil is like rewinding the coil, compress it back down from the beginning of what I remember and then going all the way back the other way. It's like rewind at the highest rated speed and then fast forward at the highest rated speed. Now we're back at zero. Okay, I finished that movie. You want to go experience another movie? So you realize how that works in time space. Just like a flash. All the experiences that I've had since I came out of my mother's biological womb, it seems between the time that I first recognized and had this up at 4 years of age to where I'm at right now, that's just like a flash. Even though you realize how many experiences those actually are of what we've experienced by everything that we are as energy on a multidimensional basis, how much that actually is. That is happening simultaneously because you're experiencing eternal light through your own heart and soul. Right? And so the beauty in that is that you don't have to worry about what's going on elsewhere, of what you become aware of, even though you're connected to everything. But you implicitly trust your journey because you're with the one, the one you're with. You're experiencing being loved. You're experiencing the love that you are, and that's the energy that we use to experience what we experience next. That means that another circuit that just got done opening and closing is experiencing what love is. Love after love after love after love after love, which means you're experiencing love wherever you go. So the only time that we don't experience something that's less than that is when our antenna is picking up a signal that is a lower frequency. Okay, so what do we do when that happens? Reboot. Transmute it. So you realize how that works with timeline wars, frequency wars, and wars between software, or if you will, units of consciousness that represent energy, because they want to control everything. They don't want to let go of that leash because that's a source of energy, because they lost their one connection. They're not experiencing what love is. So they don't have anything to share with you that represents what love is. Right? And so that's knowing the difference between one and the other. Right? Yeah. So that's having one, that's knowing one from the other. When you're experiencing what love is, we're experiencing the one. It's the law of one, which is the law of least effort to experience being loved. Right? And it's just like, that was a great video. It's too bad that that channel's down. But Dante Satori on his site, which was, what is it, DS8HK, Dante Satori, ADHK. I can't remember the name of it, but Dante Satori's site. He had a beautiful little short video that showed a robot, almost like R2-D2, that was in a mall. And they actually put this robot in there like observing a study to see what the reaction was going to be of children that were in the mall, and where the picture was being taken like a closed circuit TV, right? Because the children didn't realize they were on film, like surveillance. And so there was a robot like an R2. It looked much like R2-D2, one of those types, one of those editions, right? And so there was, what, 3, maybe 4 or 5 different children all of a sudden took an interest in it, right? And then you began to realize they were abusing, okay, the machine, the robot, whoever created it, to see what the reaction was going to be with these children, right? Very telling, okay? Right? So when you experience what love is, you're doing no harm, right? To anything in creation. So, yeah, because when I do harm to something else, I experience that harm in me, no matter what it is, right? You could break a window, right? Is that a pleasant experience, right? Now you got to spend your energy to pick up the glass. Who wants to do that when it was already intact? Now translate that to the generation of what you experienced in your mirror that you immediately manifested. Whoa. Yeah, eternal energy creation spheres. So that's what I remember as a 4-year-old kid. So I never lost my memory of the crystal atom seed, the crystal atom seed of the first one. The first one. I am the first one. I experienced being the first one. And that is an eternal gift. That's why I share that with all of you. So I mentioned it to Karen earlier that it almost seemed like when I was a little kid that it was going to be impossible for me to function in this environment because you wanted to give everything away. And how am I going to function in an environment like that if I'm not at least holding on to some electrons? No, I don't want to hold on to any electrons. I don't want to hold on to any money. And I don't want to have to go accumulate money through somebody else, right, in order to put things that I wear on me, right? Unless I'm out in the jungle somewhere and I can ask Mother Nature, is it okay if I have one of your vines or a dead one, and then maybe use that like they do in the Amazon, what they wear in the Amazon? In other words, Mother Nature is already providing you with everything you need. And that is the truth of it, right? And I experienced that living in a treehouse on the island of Kauai, naturally, right? That's when everything really came full circles, when I opened that pipe on that island, when it nearly physically knocked me off my feet, because the vortex of my heart and my soul expanded at such a high rate of speed, the amount of energy that it was represented by, which is consciousness, love energy, which is eternal energy, which is like, whoa, that's the eternal son of one. Yeah, wow. And so that's why that island is very, very special to me. And that's when I began realizing this is how it was always meant to be. Live in nature with Mama. This is Eden. I'm experiencing Eden. So I had a very short window of time from November, right around the late part of November 1972 until April 1973. that little window right there, I thought, man, I have caught a window in time space. And I realized this was only going to last for a very short period of time. Time space vectors of experiencing this island and living in this treehouse the way that I was, sitting out on a board in the water where I could see the sand where it was 100 feet deep, looking at the waterfalls up on the Poly Cliffs and up towards Mount Wailea. Just going, I realized that my short, you know how time and duration works, dilation of pupils, time dilation, density, time and density. I'm only going to be here for a very short period of time, and then I got to go. So I always hold those images, those visual images of what I experienced in my heart and soul at that time I experienced that. And then when I got on that jet and flew from the Hui back to Los Angeles to go chase the spirit of fire again, right? I cried on that airplane, and that stewardess came up to me and said, "Why are you crying so much?" And I said, "Because you have no idea how much I love being with her on that island. I will be back. I will be back. That's home base. That's my home base. That's why I cry. Because how much I love being with her on that island. Her essence is powerful there." So anyway, it's a beautiful day. It's a very powerful day. I was feeling that tug earlier, you know. No, you're not coming with me. I experienced that down the road here. I mentioned this before. It's like silent communication. It's like you have a way to communicate it and let it know because it's conscious and aware of itself. You're not coming with me, buddy. Sorry, but your energy does not come with us. Otherwise, you're going to migrate yourself because you acknowledge that it's a virus. It's a mind virus without an off switch. That's what a psychopathway is. It's an inverter. So you realize you don't want that virus to spread. So it's really no different than when I worked hazmat, you know, which is chemical, biological, radioactive, right? Hazards. That's what hazmat is. I worked in hazmat, right? So that's where I went through the University of California, Irvine, and went into all those programs, environmental engineering, right? Of all the lists of everything that is dangerous, looking for a safe zone, how the whole placard system works, how there are hazardous materials and everything was set up, right? That's how I ended up going to work up towards the Idaho National Engineering Laboratory. Why would I end up in that place? Right? If you know where that is, that's in Idaho Falls, Idaho. That's where all your big contractors. Remember the guy? What was his name that came out and talked about when he was working with EG&G? You know who EG&G? What's his name? Snyder. That's right. Snyder lost his life. Right? He was an engineer, but I believe he was a structural engineer, if I'm not mistaken. So he knew a lot about demolition, structural engineering, and worked directly with the CIA, NSA, folks like that, right? Over in Dulce, the Dulce base, and all that tied directly to EG&G. So if you know where Idaho Falls is, and then of course you got the Grand Tetons, Yellowstone, and all that, and the importance of that, the super caldera, it's there. And because it's all about energy, holding energy captive, which is holding consciousness energy captive, because it's feeding on it. Right? It needs it as a source of energy in order to run its math. Right? No different than plugging a calculator into the side of a wall socket. Just like this phone right here. Right? It's plugged into a battery. Right? So you realize the planet's a battery. Right? So we're batteries. So then you become a battery slave to something that's finite shelf life. Finite light wants your battery. That's your soul battery. That's your soul arcing battery. So that's what it is. So it feeds on energy. It doesn't matter where it gets it from. You can get it from a bird, a snake, anything. Right? Anything that represents voltage. So what you're really looking at here is you're measuring the planetary grid as to maintaining its balance, which is the consciousness that is here that is maintaining balance, which means every unit of consciousness that is self-aware. That is here, experiencing itself. Well, what is it experiencing? Is it experiencing being loved? Right? So that would be every unit of consciousness. Right? That is here, experiencing itself as energy. So you realize the importance of maintaining the balance, which is the exchange rate of electrons. At the speed of losing electrons to turn into an acid, right? And then getting new electrons. So that you're always being fed voltage from the eternal one. That's the accelerator. So when you've learned how to become an accelerator, that's called accelerated learning. See how that works? That's called a gifted student. And the reason it's called a gifted student is because now you're gifted electrons. That's a high-speed learner. So now we're measuring how sensitive we are to all life, which is all life is sacred, which means all living light is sacred. All light is sacred. Sacred temples to the universe of all communication, right? The cosmos of communication is all sacred because it began with a one. So if you're experiencing being one, you're the law of one, which means you're experiencing the law of least effort to be one. Okay? Be one. Be a beloved. Now we're all being loved, right? Now you can imagine how beautiful and how we build civilizations that thrive and go on forever, experiencing what love is. I know, it's too simple, isn't it? Have a beautiful day. Aaron may take me down to Lapa Hoi Hoi later on this afternoon, but I got something in the oven. You ever had potato skins? Do you like them when... say put it at 500 degrees. What I normally do now is I scrape out the potatoes and give it to the dog, or just throw it out on the yard, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, which means recycle that stuff. But the skins, I keep the skins, eat the skins, the outside of that skin, right? Put some salsa on it, right? Or hey, how about some, what else I ever had, what is it, white wine vinegar, mustard? The stuff made in France, Grey Poupon. Put some mustard on that. That's pretty good. Or some pink Himalayan salt. Why is pink Himalayan salt good? Pink salt. Well, did you ever see the picture I put up of Mama when the planet was pink? Right? So the Himalayas, pink salt, pink sun, right? Pink star reflecting the pink mirror in the sky. Captured that pink in that salt crystal, right? Pink frequency, the frequency of pink that is in that salt crystal. Right? And then, of course, you have Himalayan, what's the other Himalayan salt? Ammonium chloride, what is that? Nishidor. Yeah, I ordered some of that not too long ago. As Patty said, that'll clean you out. Ammonium chloride. You know why? I'll share with you, firefighters use ammonium chloride. When I was working with the U.S. Forest Service, it used to be called pink snot. And the reason it was called pink snot is because it was like a gooey substance, so it would stick onto the brush and the trees, right? And so these are your air tankers that you see in the U.S. Forest Service or the California Department of Forestry or any firefighting agency that is using what's known as DAP, which is dyed ammonium phosphate. Ooh, phosphate. You want to grow a seed? The male orgasm, remember we talked about phosphorus? Phosphate? It used to be called Phos-Check. So anyway, the reason it's pink is so you can see it. When that air tanker comes in, that pilot sees it, and he's going to lay down a burn pattern. Right, a horizontal burn pattern. Although sometimes it can be curved space, depending on the line he's going to put on it, which is a line of communication. So he's actually putting fertilizer. That's right. When the Forest Service is fighting fires and laying down DAP, that's fertilizer being laid down. Okay? And that fertilizer, which is the dyed ammonium phosphate, right, is very good at protecting the brush or the trees from igniting, because what it doesn't do is it doesn't sustain combustion, right? So it's called a retardant. So it's great as a retardant. It retards like a retard. It retards, so it doesn't burn. That gives folks with water dropping helicopters and lines of hose. Now we're back to the relationship between water and thermal gradients, right? Which is a relationship of 1 in 300. Remember the 300 that had the shields that were going up against, oh, what was it, all the Persians? Give any name that you want. It means they were substantially outnumbered, right? And so you had what, the 300? So this is how they code everything with numbers and energy and fire letters of what we experience in mathematical geometric burn patterns, which is the hologram, right? Yeah, diammonium phosphate. It's a fertilizer. So what you're doing is you're sending your seeds, the visual information packets that are going to a girl's lab with fertilizer. Okay, so you're fertilizing the egg, right? The seed needs fertilizer, right, so that it grows in a girl's womb, right? Remember I mentioned that about being the seed and the grower. That's what happened when I lit myself on fire. That's called the orgasm of the universe. That doesn't ever want to be separated from the pink flowers. A pink rose. I'm a pink rose. But you need the orgasm to set it on fire to make it grow. That's why the orgasm is hot. Phosphorus. Right? It's all about alchemy. Being a chemist. Right? Built-in chemistry. The chemistry is actually built in when you're experiencing the one. The crystal spiral. The cells. The crystal cells. Right? The first seed. The first atom seed. Whoa. That code. That code. That's right. Burning that code. Okay, I'm done. Have a great afternoon. We love you all. Take care of yourselves.